It was all in the script. It was all preordained because somebody on Instagram, somebody being the NFL, posted an artist's rendering of all the quarterbacks in the league heading to Santa Clara. They did so back in September. And we already knew because we already had picked, we being the football establishment, that Drake May and the Patriots and Sam Darnold and the Seahawks were going to the Super Bowl. So we're happy to welcome you to a Monday edition where the Super Bowl is set of inside coverage on Yahoo. My name is Andrew Siciliano, back in the home office after a trip to Seattle. This is the how and the why, any and everything you need to know about the National Football League. I hope that you're shoveled out of your driveway, you're safe, you're sound, you're healthy, you are probably bundled up with the family inside, not having to work, at least not going to the office on Monday. Joining me now on the program, our senior NFL writer, the great Frank Schwab, who is at the game in Denver, and our betting analyst as well, Ben Fawkes, who is back on the East Coast in the tri-state area, also snowed in. You guys clearly had seen the script in September. How do you think, Frank, start with you, the league was able to land the plane and tie all those plots together yesterday?
Oh, goodness, Andrew. You know how much I love conspiracy theories. That the games are rigged, right? Oh, my goodness. Yes, I saw that going around this morning. Took me a while to figure it out. I'm like, what did we look at? Oh, and then I'm like, oh, they're at the front. It's so stupid. Yeah, you put all 32 quarterbacks in a painting. They're going to be two quarterbacks.
There they are.
So, yeah.
So stupid.
I guess not just quarterbacks. Jonathan Taylor or Patrick Surtain is there. Somebody would have made whatever the outcome would have been.
Somebody
would have been
made
like,
it
Patrick Surtain is
the AFC Championship game, right? Yeah,
right.
Because Jonathan Taylor's in front of Patrick Surtain, so we screwed it up. The Colts were supposed to be in the AFC Championship game. I mean,
NFL conspiracy theories, so fun,
so silly. Ben,
it was there. I was going to say, this is where I probably should tender my resignation because of the giant bets that I made on that script. So I'll be retiring to a small private island.
You're the one allowed to do it here. I'm not. It's all you,
yeah, I'll be on a small private island. If you guys need me, I'll set up the satellite. I can zoom in for the next few, before the Super Bowl. But yeah, I'm all set to cash in. We're in good shape. No, I don't know how we come up with these things. People always like to see that. There was the Simpsons one a couple years ago. There was one, I think,
and then it was like the logos, right? The Super Bowl logo colors were the same.
The logo was in color. So people are always looking for a edge, which I use lightly. But man, this is a new one for sure.
Yeah, it's new and it's not accurate. Kids don't believe everything you read on the internet, but you should believe that the Seahawks beat the Rams 31-27. It was a ridiculously good game. It was Ali Frazier, Thrilla in Manila. It was back and forth and back and forth. It was the rumble in the jungle. It was whatever you want to compare it to. It was round 3, where the two previous games in division between these two teams were decided by a grand total of 3 points. This one was decided by a grand total of only 4 points. Both quarterbacks played their tails off. Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold, they each threw 3 touchdowns. Neither got picked. They were barely sacked. If you take away the Braden Fisk sack near the end of the game on the final possession before the Seahawks punted and gave Stafford 20 seconds with which to work, there were only 3 combined sacks in that game. What a classic, and tip of the cap to the Seahawks for winning that game. Their defense, even though it gave up 27 points, and even though it gave up 84 points in 3 games to the Rams this year, they have the #1 scoring defense in the NFL. The Seahawks got the offense yesterday, and Sam Darnold exorcised the demons, and he played fantastically well. And the Seahawks are heading back now to their 4th Super Bowl. Mike McDonald, in his 2nd season as head coach of the Seahawks, had this to say about his quarterback.
Can't talk about the game without talking about our quarterback. I mean, he just shut a lot of people up tonight, so I'm really happy for him.
What do you think got you in this point? If you could key out tonight, what it took to win the match?
Anyway, I don't know if anybody can hear me afterward, but the power of 12 as 1 is real, you know. just synergy, people buying in, doing it together. You know, we don't have a bunch of superstars and all that. We're just a really good football team that's tough and connected and doesn't blink and plays the whole game.
Mike, you kind of alluded to it there at the end, but there was sort of this narrative after, earlier this season about whether or not Sam is a big game quarterback. What do you think he showed today?
300 and something yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Every time they went and scored again, he came back, made some big time throws on 3rd down, 2-minute drive, 4-minute drive. The guy barely practiced all week, Just really happy for him. He deserves it. Just been a rock for us the whole year. So just really happy for him.
Yeah, you got to be happy for him. He played his tail off. He was that good from the opening possession where, hey, bad oblique and all, go ahead, drop a 50-yard bomb in the bucket to Rashid Shaheed, who beat Darius Williams off the line. And finally, Shaheed gets something done and gives, on offense as opposed to special teams, right? The deep ball guy that we saw in New Orleans, he became that guy yesterday. And the Seahawks are clearly the best team of the NFC. Even though I wanted the Rams to win, clearly you guys know that. What do you say, Frank Schwab? Your perch in Denver as you were wrapping up the AFC game and watching this one.
Yeah, and I feel good for Sam Darnold, too. I can't remember really a great comp to him in his career if he goes on to win this Super Bowl, because, we put Super Bowl winning quarterbacks on a pedestal. Right or wrong, we do it. And if Sam Darnold wins, as everybody expects Seattle to win this game, it seems, we're going to start talking about Sam Darnold in a completely different way. And it's weird because I think the first time, if he throws an interception in the first quarter of the Super Bowl, I can guarantee you what the reaction is going to be. Oh, Sam Darnold, he can't play a big. He's just one of those guys who everybody wants to immediately criticize and dump on and say he's not really that good. When the fact is, over the last 2 seasons, he's played 37 games. I would say 33, 34 of them have been excellent. He's had 3, 4 bad ones. Okay, like most quarterbacks in the NFL have a few bad games. It happens. But yet there's this thing following him around that he's just going to fold. Oh, yep. See, there you go. Threw an interception. He fumbled the ball. There, that's same old Sam Darnold. That's not it. Sam Darnold's good. We got to get our heads around that, whether he wins this game or not. And if he wins, I do think all of a sudden it starts to change. Like there's not maybe like Doug Williams comes to mind, of a guy who was kind of given up on and you didn't think he was going to, and then he comes out and wins a Super Bowl and the entire narrative of his career changes. That's Sam Darnold right now. And you got to feel good for him because he dealt with so much grief, failing with the Jets, going to a terrible Panthers situation, not doing anything there, going the backup route with the 49ers, getting his break with the Vikings, making a smart move to go to the Seahawks to replace Geno Smith there. I feel good for Sam Darnold, and I don't expect him to play poorly in the Super Bowl. Why would you at this point? Like, yeah, he's had a few bad games the last 2 years. It doesn't mean that's who he is as a quarterback.
Yeah. Listen, I won't go back in time. We all know I'm a Vikings fan. We'll leave that to the side here. He's played great. Like he's played fantastic. And I think we've seen this a bit with Matthew Stafford, right? In his career, we knew he was talented. He just played on those teams where he didn't have enough talent around him. And I think with Darnold, it was a combination of both, right? Clearly he's talented. He's a number 3 pick overall, drafted ahead of a lot of other good to very good quarterbacks. So we knew the talent was there. It just didn't quite add up. And I think we have difficulty as human beings, and especially as NFL fans, changing an opinion, right? And the lasting image of Sam Darnold is that Monday Night Football game against the Patriots, and he's seeing ghosts, right? And so it's just like, all right, we know what Sam Darnold is, a little bit like Kirk Cousins,
so
right?
Long ago.
And it was so out of context and over.
It was so long ago.
Like,
I can't believe people can't get over that. But I'm with you, and I think it goes.
But I think
more
that's
than that. Don't you think
like,
some of it is last year's playoff game as well?
Mm-hmm. Totally. I would just say those are the failing, I guess, on the biggest stages, right? And especially that Monday Night Football game because of how poorly it went. I just feel like if you asked people before this season or even last season, especially what the lasting image of Sam Darnold is, like the first thing that comes to their mind is probably that and not necessarily any small rays of sunshine in the Panthers or the Jets when he was playing with them. So there was always talent there. We've seen him clearly put it together. And ultimately in this game, a lot of it comes down to, it always sounds simple, 3rd down, but Sam Darnold, 6 of 9 for 102 yards on 3rd down. Matthew Stafford, 0 of 7. First time in his career 252 games, he didn't have a completion, according to ESPN research, on third down. It's ultimately tough to really blame Stafford. This is on, to me, the defense. And we talked about on Thursday, the special teams, right? The Seahawks, the number 2 special teams by DVOA. The Rams, I think, were 26th or so. We saw that Week 16 game turn around the fourth quarter because of that Rashid Shaheed punt return. We saw this game turn a bit. Certainly, the Rams had just gotten a stop. Then you get that punt and the fumble. They're inside the 15-yard line, 20-yard line. Seahawks get a touchdown the next play. It's kind of amazing. Matthew Stafford, in 2 games in Seattle against what we would say is whatever you want to say, the top defense, the second best defense, one of the best defenses in the league, 831 yards passing, 6 touchdowns in 2 games, no turnovers, sacked once. Like, you can't really play. In this title game, they averaged 8.3 yards per play. They were the best offense in the NFL during the regular season. They averaged 6. Like, they played unbelievably on offense. It just, the defense let them down, and those special teams as well.
Yeah, and those are the 2 things. And I was up there with a lot of Rams friends over the weekend. Clearly, for those who don't know, I worked for them in a limited capacity, mostly in the preseason. But for 14 years, I consider them, the Ramley, we always throw that term around, but I was up there with a lot of Rams people over the weekend, and what let them down on Sunday is what let them down for the majority of the season, and that was special teams and at times corner play. Darius Williams was beaten off the line by Rashid Shaheed. He's the fastest guy in the NFL, potentially playing wide receiver. It's understandable, but Darnold made the throw, the bad oblique, and everything, and that hurt them. JSN was able to make plays against whomever he lined up against, whether they put him in motion or not. Cooper Kupp had that great third down with that ball right off the ground, and he turned it upfield. He also later got in the end zone as well. Quentin Lake got cooked a couple of times, and I love, maybe Cook's too strong, but JSN had his way, and they found the mismatches, whether he was beating Lake or Nate Landman for that touchdown. That really hurt the Rams. And then the Xavier Smith muffed punt was deadly. And Darnold, to his credit, immediately turned that around and put it into the end zone. Was it 1 or 2 plays later? Yet still the Rams were in it. Multiple times they have rallied back from 11 in conference championship games to eventually win and go to the Super Bowl. And they were down 11 multiple times in this one. And you thought they were going to find a way. They could have had one more play. Puka was this close to getting out of bounds. The right call was made. He was down. Run the clock. The game was over. Now, can we quibble over what is and isn't a catch there on third down with Cooper Kupp? I would have liked to have seen a longer review. McVay didn't want to challenge it. He was told he couldn't challenge it. There was a blatantly missed face mask in the second quarter where Stafford, everyone in America knew it should have been called. Yeah. That would have extended a Rams drive. That was on a third down. You could hate the rule that got Tariq Woolen flagged. Like, we could have a conversation about whether or not you should legislate morality here and sportsmanship. But Tariq Woolen, that is the definition of what currently. That is a flag. You can't jump up and down. He would have gone down as a Seattle villain forever had they lost that game. Quarterback. Right. With the referee right there. And Stafford then goes right back at him the next play. Yeah. So it was such a good game. And Sean used the word finality after the game. And it always hits me. It hit me as a fan when I was a kid, when the Browns made the AFC Championship game, 86, 87, and 89, and the just deep despair and pit in your stomach that not only fans have, but believe me, players, coaches, organizations collectively have when you get to the end and you realize it's over. And it's so hard to get back here. And that came out of Sean McVay last night when he was asked the obvious question from Gary Klein of the LA Times about what's going to happen now at quarterback.
Matthew Stafford to be back next season.
Yeah, if he still wants to play, what the hell kind of question is that? The answer, yeah. You have to ask him. We've been totally present. I know that if he wants to, he's still playing at a pretty damn good clip. He's the MVP of the league, and if he's not, I mean, I got respect for everybody else, but this guy played at a level that's just different. I appreciate you guys this year. Thank you.
All right, so let's work backwards there. I do agree he's the MVP of the league, at least for my money. I think he's going to win that next week. It's going to be uncomfortable. Josh Allen had to do it last year. You lose in the postseason, in this case, NFC Championship game, but then you have to go to the Super Bowl and on Thursday night accept a well-deserved honor. If it is him, understanding that another quarterback is representing your conference in the Super Bowl in 72 hours. It is fair, however, and I understand both Gary and Sean's position here. Gary's got to ask it or somebody's got to ask it because this was an issue last year. We're at the Combine, and whether it's going to be a trade to the Giants or a trade to the Raiders or whatever, like it was near the end with Matthew Stafford. They put a one-year Band-Aid on it. He's going to be 38. And Frank, as much as some people want to poo-poo this, the Rams have a decision to make, and Stafford's got a decision to make, and they got to figure out what to do. At 38, do you give him, because he's probably going to want more than a one-year Band-Aid, do you write him a multi-year check? Are you ready to do that? You have 2 number 1 picks. Now, it's not a good quarterback draft. And your picks are 13 and 29, if memory serves. They're in an interesting spot.
Yeah, they sure are. And even Matthew Stafford, there's been retirement speculation about him last couple of years. He had that 1 year where suffered multiple concussions, and everybody wondered, is he going to come back? Look, when you get to this age, that's just going to be a question year after year. Are you going to come back? Do you want to play still? And the question on whether the Rams give him a long-term deal, because look, he's the MVP of the league. He should be asking for a raise. He should, and this happened before. Like, he's a smart guy. He just says, I was the best quarterback in the NFL last year. Best quarterback right now is making $60 million a year. So let's figure this out. And that's going to happen. And I assume it's all going to get worked out, just like it did last offseason. But you do reach an age with Stafford where it's like, is he still going to be effective at 40, 41? We're looking at that even.
Is his back
I don't know.
Hold up.
Right. Once you hit age 38, 39, the cliff can come very, very quickly for some guys. Not Aaron Rodgers necessarily, not Tom Brady for sure, but it does happen. And I think it's a fair question. I thought the question for McVay was very fair. I know why he was upset, because he doesn't want to talk about that right at that moment. But it is something that's going to have to be resolved, and I assume the Rams get that done because Stafford was so good. But yeah, we're just going to be asking this question year after year with the Rams until Stafford does retire and move on to somebody else. Just because at this age, this is what happens. Ask Aaron Rodgers, ask Brett Favre, ask whoever, Drew Brees, all these guys when they reach this age, it's a question year after year.
And I think, as you alluded to, right, the MVP is a regular season award, not the postseason, but you just saw how well Stafford played in that game, especially when they were down. They kept getting down 11 points over and over in the third quarter. I mean, that drive, I think it was 2 minutes, right? Maybe it was 24, 10. So whatever that was, where they went right back down the field and scored a touchdown in like 5 plays, including multiple perfect passes to the tight end. He had one to Devontae Adams, then the touchdown to Devontae Adams. Like, the difference between him, I would say attempting to win the game. He had to play like that for them to have a chance to win, versus, as we'll talk about, the AFC Championship game, Drake May doing enough so that they didn't lose the game. There's a big difference to me between those two. Drake May will get his shot. He's playing the same team. He'll get to prove it on the field, but Stafford clearly still can play at an elite level. And I think for the Rams especially too, as you alluded to, Andrew, all of a sudden you have that Falcons pick, which also got a lot better, got a lot worse after the Falcons won 4 straight games, I believe, to end the season. The Rams obviously now in the championship game, so their pick's not as great. And all of a sudden, Lenora Sellers back to school, Dante Moore back to school. Fernando Mendoza's going number 1. You're looking at Kuiper's rankings, Ty Simpson, Trinidad Chambliss, Drew Aller, number 4. Like, we're not looking at the same quality of quarterback class. Whereas before the season, I think you think, okay, they can package those 2 picks, maybe give up something else, move up for a quarterback they really like. I don't think that opportunity really exists for the franchise quarterback they'd be looking for to replace Stafford. So yeah, I think your best shot is, hey, give him all the time he needs, and hopefully he wants to play at least one more season.
13 and 29. I was right. Those are the 2 picks, and the 13 comes from the trade with the Falcons, where they moved up and they took James Pierce, who was turned into a good player, the edge rusher out of Tennessee, and Atlanta's got a defense back, certainly has a pass rush back. We're a couple of months out from the draft. Daniel Jeremiah's first mock dropped today. There's room for all kinds of movement. Quarterbacks always get pushed up. This week, Garrett Nussmeier, who a year ago people were saying top 10 pick, and then everything went sideways at LSU this year. Garrett Nussmeier, you watch, is going to have a really good week at the Senior Bowl. I guarantee you. Next week, we're going to be talking about, is Garrett Nussmeier back in the conversation? Is he a bottom of this first round quarterback? Again, we got 3 months to do this. Just think about that with the Rams, maybe not Nussmeier, but any team that needs a quarterback. Let's tap the base one more time here on the Seahawks. Give John Schneider credit, the general manager here. He moves back. He gets back to a Super Bowl with basically an entirely new roster. Well, I mean, it is. Last time they were there a decade ago from the teams that went in consecutive years with Pete Carroll, and they do so with a new head coach and Mike Macdonald. There are a lot of regrets. Ben, you mentioned yours as a Vikings fan. Vikings fans watching Darnold do that yesterday certainly had the FOMO. Jets fans had the FOMO. There are people in Baltimore, I guarantee you, that even though they're happy with Jesse Minter, are looking at Mike Macdonald going, should we have ever let him out of the building? You know, were we a couple of years too late on John Harbaugh? There's a lot of that with this postseason, Frank, including the game that you were at. We'll get to Vrabel a little bit. That's the one that gets the most headlines, but there are plenty of those stories here in the NFC as well.
Oh, a ton, yeah. And I mean, speaking of Seattle, I think the one, and I wrote about it today for winners and losers, I think the one thing that we're going to talk about Super Bowl week because we talk about everything, right? But I think needs to get a lot of attention is the fact that they made 2 incredibly bold moves at quarterback in the past few years, and also a bold move at head coach. So many teams, and you mentioned John Schneider, and that's why I'm talking about that. I want to credit him. So many teams who are just stuck in the middle of the road at quarterback, they just say, well, we got to pay this guy. What choice do we have? You know that guy's not taking you to a Super Bowl, but they're like, well, we're going to get fired if we don't re-sign him and hope. And they didn't do that with Russell Wilson. They knew Russell Wilson was falling off hard. Traded him to the Denver Broncos. Some of those picks, Charles Cross came from that trade. Devin Witherspoon came from the trade in the picks that the Seattle got back from Denver. A couple years later, they're saying, Geno wants more money. We don't really trust Geno that much. Let's trade him to the Raiders because the Raiders are one of those dumb franchises who would trade for a 35-year-old quarterback. They get a 3rd-round pick out of that and move on with Sam Darnold and go to a Super Bowl. And at head coach, Pete Carroll is coming off back-to-back 9 and 8 seasons. He's an institution there. He's, greatest coach in franchise history. Took them to their only Super Bowl win so far. But John Schneider and the ownership had the courage, I guess, to say, this isn't working. We're on the downside here. Let's make a move. I don't think many franchises would have done that. I don't think John Schneider would have made these moves had he been with an ownership group that doesn't have the patience the Seahawks do. You see this so often where general managers just get, well, I can't survive a quarterback change if it doesn't work right away. The Seahawks are built for this. I think that's a template other teams should be following of, hey, if you don't think Geno Smith could take you to a Super Bowl, what are we doing here? Move on. Try something else. See if you can hit your Sam Darnold. I don't think many teams will do that, but I credit the Seahawks. I credit John Schneider. They made bold moves, and that's why they're in the Super Bowl right now.
90 more seconds here in this game real quick. Hold on a second. I know, Frank, you're writing about the 4th down decision in the AFC game. Ben, put you on the spot. What do you think of the Sean McVay 4th down decision late in the game, down 4, inside the 10, going for it from the 6?
I'm okay going for it because I think you have Matthew Stafford as opposed to, let's say, Jarrett Stidham. Yeah. And you need a touchdown, and your defense hasn't stopped Seattle all game. So
yeah. Totally with you here. I totally agree. That was the right decision to make. People say, take the points. You still have to get the ball back there. You're on the 6-yard line. You've got Matthew Stafford. Go ahead and go for it. Now, Sean was trying to call timeout. I saw it from where I was watching the game. He's running down the sideline towards the ref, much like Harbaugh with Kaepernick at the Super Bowl in New Orleans. Harbaugh got that timeout. Sean eventually got there and pulled back and didn't call it. But I'm watching it with the people that I'm with going like, he's going to call time. Look at him. He's right. Look. And then he never actually did call timeout. Also, Seattle, I love you. It's a great sports town, a great restaurant town. I love Seattle, period. Always enjoy my time there. That venue is great. It is the most difficult road venue for any team in the NFL. Love you 12s. Great environment. Thanks for making me and the rest of the Ramley feel welcome as we walked around your city, even though it was cold this past weekend. Not as cold as
Don't want to hear about it.
though.
Don't want to hear about it, Andrew.
I know. Like it was in the 20s. No, I'm kidding. I was in the 20s.
Get out.
I'm kidding that it bothered me. That is all I am saying. Okay. AFC game coming up. Frank, I want you to empty the notebook, if you will, from the snowy afternoon in Denver. We'll do that coming up next on Inside Coverage. And then there is the AFC game, Inside Coverage, everybody. Monday after Championship Sunday. Welcome back. Andrew Siciliano and Frank Schwab and Ben Fawkes and you. We thank you for being here. It is the New England Patriots and Mike Vrabel's very first season representing the American Football Conference. Vrabel will now be the first player since Mike Ditka to win an NFL championship and then later coach his team, the same team, in an NFL championship. Now, for Vrabel, he'll be the first to do it in the Super Bowl era. Ditka did it straddling two eras. The Bears won when it was just called the NFL Championship. Kids, the NFL is not 60 years old. It's 106. Those championships count as well. And then he coached the 85 Bears to the resounding 46-10 victory in New Orleans over the Patriots, a team that did not include Mike Vrabel. But Frank, you were at this one, a game that was back and forth and a defensive struggle with some turnovers in the first half, and the second half turned into a blizzard. You wrote about the fourth down decision on Yahoo that cost Sean Payton early in the game. What else you got, man? Empty the notebook. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I want to talk about the fourth down if we could, because I just find it fascinating. And I think I'm one of the few people who, I'm not going to get caught up in hindsight here. I thought it was totally fine to go for it on fourth down.
I was with it.
I understand his reasoning.
Totally.
Right. After as soon as Stidham made that run, and he's about a yard short, I immediately thought, he's going to go for it. I didn't really think about the field goal there. Maybe I should have. I don't know. But the people who were like, you had to know the weather was going to, I guess, even if you know the weather is going to come in, you don't realize that in the second half, you're basically not going to be playing the sport of football anymore. What we saw in the second half on Sunday was not even football. You couldn't play. It's just impossible. I don't think that Sean Payton's forecasting skills are that good that you could know that. So that's a lot of hindsight. And I think in a moment, what Sean said was totally reasonable. He just says, you know what? My defense was playing great. We had all the momentum. I felt like going up 14 there was huge. And it's 4th and 1. It's not 4th and 5. It's not. I like the decision. I was fine with the decision. I thought it could have gone either way. I'm not going to rip him for the decision. I thought the play call sucked. And what he said afterwards was, we had a run called. We expected him to come out in this look. They came out in a 61, a 6-down lineman, basically. So we got out of the run. We went to a pass. I hated that. Even he said afterwards.
And it was a jailbreak.
The initial run we called, he's like, the initial run we called was the better option. And so I think he'll regret that. But the decision itself, we can't do this in hindsight all the time. We've seen plenty of teams score touchdowns and those kind of drives. You pick up the yard, you run it, you push, whatever. You go up 14. The same argument that's being made, you got to take the points there. There's not going to be many points scored. The same argument could be applied to, there's not going to be many points there, so 7's even more valuable.
Exactly.
Going up 14 there.
Yes.
Yes, going up 14 there.
That's my point, too. When people say, at that point. You should have known the snow was coming. Maybe his thought was, if, as you say, it's going to be a disaster, not even football in the second half, then 14 points right now wins this game.
14 points wins the game.
So, go for it.
And if Jared Stidham just takes a sack, they win that game instead of whatever he was trying to do.
But that, I think to your point, Frank, I think that's part of the other side of the debate, because I was on the kick the field goal. Now, I think the weather is a separate thing, right? I don't know if Denver's like Vermont, where they say, right, if you don't like the weather, wait 20 minutes. I mean, that snow came on real quick. But I think you saw how your defense is playing. You also have Jarrett Stidham. You don't know how this is Matthew Stafford going up and down the field against any defense. basically that he plays. Who knows how many times you're going to be down there? I understand you could make the argument then, hey, it's only a yard.
It's the same.
That's kind of my
argument
for it. You're in the red zone right there. You don't know how many times you're going to be in the red zone.
But you're going up 2 scores is the thing. You're going up 10 or 14. You're going up 2 possessions. And then as soon as the weather also played it, the Patriots in the first half, 3 plays, 6 yards, punt. 6 plays, 11 yards, punt. 3 plays, -5. They had no offense. They had, I think, 18 plays, 36 yards, 2 first downs in the first half. And then they got handed that touchdown because of Jarrett Stidham. We don't know what Jarrett Stidham's going to do. However, he also is a lot more likely to make the play we saw him make because he is a backup quarterback than, let's say, a Matthew Stafford, somebody else. So there is a little bit of that damage insurance later in the game that you're preventing. And Drake May, not to say he would press or anything, but all of a sudden it's 10-0. Now you're up. It just felt, as soon as that score happened, on top of the fact they didn't make it, and now all of a sudden it's 7-7, with how much the Broncos had dominated the game yardage-wise and time of possession and field position, it just felt very deflating. And yes, that's playing the result a bit, but I think just getting that field goal with a backup quarterback, he looked very good in those scripted plays and then not so good afterwards. It just seemed, as well as calling the timeout, as people had mentioned, right? If you don't know what you're going to do, go up, maybe try and draw them off sides, get a free 5 yards, then call a timeout. It seemed like they didn't really know what they wanted to do. Then they called a timeout. The Patriots got a chance to kind of reassemble, get the communication in. And like Andrew said, that play was over before it started. I mean, it had no chance once it went.
Yeah, look, there were plays there in which, and the other one, the one that turned into a fumble, and after they finally somewhat got the call right, and the Patriots were able to score the other turnover there for Stidham late in the second quarter. Those were plays where, regardless of the conditions in the second half, Bo Nix would have not made, right? Bo Nix probably would have gotten them into the right play on 4th down. Bo Nix would not have done that chest pass, I don't want it, you take it, turnover play either, which I don't even think that ball went backwards. I just think it was a fumble. That's just me, regardless. But I don't disagree with what Sean Payton did. And my buddies and I were talking about it. We're sitting there at a bar, was like Elysian, whatever. Like anyone who's been to Lumen, that great area to the northwest of the stadium with all those bars. We're there watching the first game. We're going to go in at halftime. We're like, they're going to go for it. There's no way they're going to go for it. They're not going to go for it. They went for it and didn't get it. Then we go into the stadium. We're down on the field in pregame warmups, and then you look up at the big screen there in Seattle. They're playing the AFC Championship game, obviously, on the big screen during the pregame. Everyone's watching, and we all went like, wait a minute. Since when did that game move to Hoth? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah,
and the Patriots
doing the same thing in the press box.
Yeah, and they're in all white, much like Luke on Hoth, although the top was kind of brown and the pants were white. Either way, you couldn't see him out there. That's why Han had so much trouble finding him before slicing open the tauntaun and throwing him in there.
It's a good thing Jory isn't on. She'd have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm kind of lost too here, Ben. I can't lie to you.
You get my point.
No, I'm with him. I'm with you, Andrew.
Yeah. Okay. Frank, when did you know that this was really bad? You're in the press box. Take me through the snow timeline.
So the funny thing is, I get to the game, and all weekend here in Colorado, we had been hearing, it's going to be terrible for the game. It's going to be terrible for the game. Ticket prices were plummeting. And I get there, and I'm like, what are these people talking about? It's a beautiful day. It's 20 degrees. There's no wind. It's clear skies. This is wonderful. And as Ben alluded to, in Colorado, the weather will change on a dime. I can look out my window and look back and when did that come? So I'm sitting there. I go get a bite to eat at halftime, sit back next to Jory Epstein. Wonderful, covering the game with her, by the way. I'm like, wow, it looks like it's starting to snow a little bit overcast. And then it just starts blowing, and you're like, oh, my goodness, you can barely see the field. And I told Jory at the beginning of the fourth quarter, too, I'm like, not only do I not think the Broncos are going to score, I can't even sit here and envision in my head a scenario where the Broncos could move the ball. Like, that's how crazy it was. That's how bad the field conditions were. You just knew they're not, this is it. This game is ending 10-7. There's no way, unless they scoop and score on defense or something like that. Even when they got the shank punt and took over 36, they could only move the ball 5 yards and then had a field goal block. So it just turned it. That's the thing. Like, I am guilty of this too. We talk so poetically about bad weather football games, right? Like, oh, the Tuck rule, the Ice Bowl. Wow, these games are. The reality is most games look like yesterday, where it is just an unplayable mess. That was bad football in the second half because nobody could do anything. So Patriots were just like, run the ball 3 times and punt because they can't do anything with it anyway. Ramondre, just hold on to the ball. Don't fumble it. We're going to win this game. That's really not great. Like, I don't, these cold weather games are awesome in theory. In practice, they usually look like what they did yesterday.
Let's have the conversation now about the bad weather and whether or not these games should be neutral sites. I am firmly against it. Mike Florio on Pro Football Talk suggested that this morning. It's not the first time it's been suggested. If you remember a couple of years ago as well, after the Bills-Bengals Damar Hamlin game in Cincinnati late in the season on a Monday night was called off basically after Hamlin's horrible injury on the field. They were going to, if the Bills and Chiefs met in the AFC Championship game, and never got that far, they were going to play the AFC Championship game at a neutral site in Atlanta. And the Bills were understandably apoplectic about that. I do not want neutral site championship games. Yesterday, you had 2 bad weather teams. You had 2 teams that have played in the elements this year. It's fine. They could handle it. Now, the product wasn't great, but to me, I don't care. Big deal. If we're going to spend 5 months of our life talking about the number 1 seed and home field advantage, and you got to come beat us in our building. Again, I'm at the NFC Championship game. The place is loud as heck. It is the best home field advantage in the NFL for any team. Then you have to deal with the bad weather games. I don't want a neutral site. People say, oh, we'll give like 85% of the tickets to the home team and 15% to the road team and make those great fans get on a plane and go to a game and make them spend more money and then have them, if they make the Super Bowl, spend money and go to the game 2 weeks after that. The whole idea is stupid. I'm not saying that people suggested are stupid. I think the idea is stupid. I am not in any way for it. We got bad weather. It snowed a lot. It reminded me very much of the Browns-Steelers Thursday night snow globe game last year, where like Jory's photos and what you saw, Frank, with your own 2 eyes. First half, oh my God, I thought it was going to be bad.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
Yeah.
Second
that was
half,
a fun cold weather
it's
game.
bad.
Yeah.
First half, watching your game yesterday, I turned to my buddies when it comes on, and I'm like, wait a minute, I thought it was going to snow. It looks great. Of course, until it didn't look great.
Yeah, welcome to Colorado. Yeah, neutral site. Because, look, some of you're going to tell me the people in Seattle would have had as much fun as they did yesterday if they played that game in Las Vegas or Kansas City or wherever the heck the neutral site would be. No, that's a special. I remember the Packers in '96. Obviously, I was living out there. People talk about that NFC Championship game at Lambeau that put them back into the Super Bowl for the first time since Super Bowl II, more than they talk about the actual Super Bowl because it was at Lambeau and you got to celebrate with each other and it was cold and it was Packer weather and the fans were there and the players were there and it was a special thing. That gets taken away with neutral site. No neutral site championship games. Super Bowl, fine, I guess. No problem. Whatever. That's not changing. But no more neutral site playoff games. I like it. And look, Patriots and Broncos played in those conditions. The Patriots, they did handle it better. Like, that's just the truth. And the Broncos even said that after. They didn't make excuses. In the locker room, to a man, all the Broncos players, they weren't like, what could we do? The snow. I was sitting there saying that. I think if that game stays normal weather for the second half, I truly believe the Broncos are going to win that game. I really do. Like, I think they were going to find a way to win. Their defense was playing so well. It just turned into a mess. But the Broncos players, to their credit, all said, look, how could we complain? Drake May had to do it too, and they handled it better than we did. So credit to them for that. But yeah, football, weather is part of football, and it always should be.
And I agree. I don't think you need a neutral site in the playoffs. Part of home field advantage also should be knowing the weather at your stadium, right? You should be familiar with how quickly it potentially could change, which again, going back to that fourth down means depending on how you want to play it. Obviously, these are two separate games, right? One was a regular weather game and one was just a complete snow globe. So, but if theoretically you know it's going to be a snow globe, you might want as many points as you want in the better weather portion of the game. I also think it depends, in this case, the Broncos were actually an underdog. You can make the argument they, were the worst team because they had the worst starting quarterback, right? With Jarrett Stidham. With Bo Nix, they're a favorite, but generally the worst weather is probably going to benefit the worst team because it kind of levels the playing field. So you figure over the course of a full game with good weather, maybe the Patriots have the advantage over more of the game with bad weather. If the Broncos especially had that lead, there's a world in which they're up 10-0 or 10-3. Jarrett Stidham doesn't have that turnover. And all of a sudden the Broncos are doing the same thing and running the ball 3 times and punting to the Patriots. And the Patriots can't, score, and the Broncos win, 10-3, 10-6, something like that. So I do think it factors in the home field and knowing your home field. But like you guys are saying, these are also both cold weather teams. So it's not like this was the Dolphins going to play in Kansas City a couple of years ago or anything like that. Both teams can handle it. And we've also seen that, a couple years ago, the Bengals, right, went in, also a cold weather team, to Buffalo. Looked like they were a lot better prepared than the Bills in Buffalo. So both teams have the same conditions. It was just fascinating that it was really like half the game in this snow globe and half the game not.
Let's compliment Drake May on a 3rd and 6 with 1:57 remaining. Get a first down, win the game. May called his own number, didn't tell his own team he was calling his own number, and booted around left end, and he got there. Good for you, Drake May. Whether you're MVP or not, the kid's got some moxie. He's a reason. He's the reason. One of the huge reasons they are there. The box score is going to say that Drake May completed 10 passes and was sacked 5 times and won an AFC Championship game. The box scores, plural, will say that Drake May has been sacked 15 times on his way to the Super Bowl, and that is the second most in the Super Bowl era for any quarterback in the postseason, behind only Joe Burrow, who was sacked 19 times, but that includes the Super Bowl, behind one of the worst offensive lines to ever go to a Super Bowl and still almost pulled off that Super Bowl in 2021. But Drake May made the play when it mattered most yesterday in the snow to win the game. Frank, your thoughts on the job Mike Vrabel did this year? You had a ringside seat for a coronation yesterday.
Yeah, man. I mean, the pressure packages they had to really get to Stidham. They basically, for a lot of that game, as Ben said, there were 2 different games. I'm talking about the first half when it was actual football. That first half, it was pretty much like, hey, Stiddy, if he could beat us, go ahead, but we're going to blitz you all the time. We're going to heat you up. And it really made a big difference.
Early. Yeah.
But boy, by the end of that game, by the way, that whole sequence of him hitting Mims and then him hitting Sutton for the touchdown, I was thinking, like, did that happen this month? Like, that just seems like it happened sequence. Like literally like a whole season ago. Like, it was such a different game. But I thought Vrabel had a really good plan coming in. I thought they played the beginning of the third quarter really well, knowing the weather was coming in. Hey, let's grind this out. Let's run the ball. Let's get a field goal. Let's take the lead and go from there. I thought he managed the game well. And he is probably a top 5 coach in the NFL. I know top 5, he filled it up real quick with Andy and McVay and all them, but Vrabel has proven it. And I love the stat. I don't know who exactly said it on Twitter last night, but that the Patriots have more wins since like December 21st than the Titans have since they fired Mike Vrabel. Like, it's unbelievable. It's good for Mike Vrabel. Great coach. The Titans completely screwed that up. The Patriots benefit from it. And also,
they did.
As much as I hated the way they got to it by firing Jared Mayo and making a joke of the Rooney Rule and all that kind of stuff, some credit to Robert Kraft, too, for saying, I got a shot at Mike Vrabel. Jared Mayo, this ain't happening. Let's go get Mike Vrabel. He ends up back in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. The only thing that I would add is just, at some point, they will play a good team that will be in the Super Bowl, and ultimately the Patriots, this playoffs, 13 of 43 on third down, right? That we can go through all the stats with Drake May. Ultimately, though, their defense has held opposing offenses 12 of 41, which is 29% on third down. So they have 3 touchdown drives of at least 60 yards in 3 games. That's it. But they've won those games. Their defense has really helped out Drake May. Now it's going to be a question in the Super Bowl, can he help them out as well?
And under better conditions, you would have to think, have not looked ahead 2 weeks from now, but I would assume, fingers crossed, we have sunshine in Santa Clara for Super Bowl 60. Let's hope this game is played under good conditions. I love me some outdoor football. We get back to outdoor football with hopefully sunshine in the forecast. I'm a big Drake May fan, and I'm happy for him. The numbers don't tell the story here. I did a TikTok video about Sam Darnold and Drake May's turnovers, and I think that's the factor in both of these games. And I think it's Rams-Broncos. I was wrong, and I sit here corrected. I was wrong on both games. And there's that FOMO with the Titans on Mike Vrabel. Clearly, it's the same thing we talked about on Mike McDonald and on Sam Darnold. That's what happens in these games because you only got 2 teams standing and you have 30 left going. Man, they made choices that we did not. And if we had made those choices, maybe we would be there as well. But you're not, and they are. Ben, real quick, what do the numbers tell us? Early look at Santa Clara. And as you give me the number, historically, how much does that number, barring any injuries or anything, significant happening to either teams, lineups, etc., how much does it move in the 2 weeks from the conference championship games to Super Bowl Sunday?
Yeah, so this opened at some books, Seahawks -3.5, some books as high as Seahawks -5. It's kind of congealed into Seahawks -4.5 at this point. It probably won't move too much, maybe a point at most, half a point here. It depends a little bit where the number is, right? If it's under a field goal, it's more likely to move because those numbers aren't necessarily worth as much. But it's probably not going to move too much over the course of these 2 weeks, again, barring some, like you said, quarterback injury. We don't have any quarterbacks where we had a second post-game press conference like the Broncos last week. So as it sees right now, for Seahawks 4.5, total I think is 46 or so. And yeah, we've already seen our first $1 million bet come in as well on the Patriots money line. So the money will be fast and flowing over the course of these 2 weeks.
Wow, Frank, that's big out of you. I didn't know you had that in you.
I got that Andrew Siciliano money laying around. I had to go to Vegas.
Don't look at me, man. I don't have that, and B, I'm not allowed to. Don't get anyone thinking that I do and can.
Hey, the line's too high, by the way. The Patriots are going to compete in this game, guys. I don't know why everybody thinks we got 2 weeks to talk about it, but of course the Patriots are going to compete in this game. That's all I'll say for right now. We'll have time to talk about this more.
Okay, so let me lay out some ground rules, and maybe we'll save this for later in the week. But my first ground rule, as we all get to Santa Clara and get ready for inside coverage here on the road, my first rule, and I didn't learn this right out of the gate. I am very fortunate. I've gone to a lot of these things for Radio Row pretty much every year since my first Super Bowl was in Tampa when Brian Billick's Ravens beat the Giants with that great defense. So that was January of 01 or February of 01, right? So 25, 26 years now. Used to be like you have all your guests on and like Monday, Tuesday, you're like, hey, who's going to win the game? You're not allowed to ask who's going to win the game until Friday. Like,
till Friday.
Till Friday. Or maybe Thursday.
Is there a reason why Friday?
It's just because you could talk big picture stuff, and if they want to offer who they think is going to win the game, that's fine. It gets, because then every show's the same. Who's going to win? Who's going to win? It feels too local newsy. You know what I'm saying?
It's the easiest question. That's the problem. It's like talking about the weather with a stranger. We're in the lowest common denominator here. We're all there to watch the Super Bowl, so presumably you have some opinion on who you think will win the game.
You would think.
Oh, man.
Yes. But Frank, when you get stopped on the street or at Buffalo Wild Wings
always,
in
always.
August and somebody says, who's going to win the Super Bowl? Don't you feel like, oh, I don't like if I knew, I'd be retired.
Yeah, I picked the Ravens this year. Don't ask me. I don't know. What do you want from me?
Coming up next, who's going to quarterback the Steelers next year? I don't know, but they've got a coach. That came out of nowhere. We'll do it next on Inside Coverage. It's Inside Coverage on Yahoo. So as we record this on Monday evening, the Browns have just announced that Nate Scheelhaase, Rams pass game coordinator, has completed his second interview. Will Scheelhaase interview with the Bills? Is this pod outdated by the time it's posted? I don't know. But we do know that Mike McCarthy is the new head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. This news broke early on Saturday afternoon as yours truly was driving to LAX to fly up to the NFC Championship game. It's one of those ones where you're at a red light and your phone buzzes and you're like, I'm allowed to touch my phone. I'm at a red light. Well, whatever. I make the rules. And I look down. I'm like, oh, well, would you look at that? Look who's the new head coach of the Steelers. A guy who's from Pittsburgh, once worked in a toll booth. Dad once owned a bar. Just listen to him talk. Mike McCarthy is Western PA through and through. Yes, he won a Super Bowl in Dallas, overcame an ice storm, and beat the Steelers and Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger. He also, his last 3 years in Dallas, won 36 games in the regular season with the Cowboys, went to the playoffs 3 times, won only 1 game collectively in those 3 trips to the postseason. But the guy can coach. It just is a very non-Steelers hire. Now, when people say it's a non-Steelers hire, Frank, I kind of disagree with that. Because they say, well, they've never done this. They don't hire coaches that often. So just because they hired a young Chuck Noll and a young Bill Cowher and a young Mike Tomlin doesn't mean that all these years later, after the old man Rooney is no longer here, that Art Rooney II decides he has to do the exact same thing. He decided to hire an experienced veteran coach who knows the neighborhood and has a trophy. And, oh, by the way, won that trophy with the old quarterback that might, considering the landscape and you're picking 21st, be your best option, whether you like it or not next year.
This hire is so uninspiring. It's just why?
Come on.
It just seemed like the absolute safest decision the Steelers could make.
What's wrong with safe?
Safe is not going to get you very far. But here's the thing about Mike McCarthy. Here's what his profile is right now. He can win you games in a regular season. Probably going to make the playoffs. Really, he's probably never going to take you very far in the playoffs, but does have that one Super Bowl from really, really long ago. Didn't the Steelers just move on from that guy? Yeah, like, why are we doing this again? Like, did you hire him because he's from Pittsburgh? That's a dumb reason to hire a coach. It is. It just is. It's a dumb. Sean McVay ain't from LA, but what does it matter? If you can coach, you can coach. Doesn't matter where you're from. This isn't college recruiting where you have to know the state and the high school coaches. Like that. That's a dumb reason. If you hired him in any way to retain Aaron Rodgers for another year, that's even dumber. Aaron Rodgers is going to be 42 next year. We've seen the ceiling for Aaron Rodgers right now. You could maybe win a bad division and get blown out in the first round of the playoffs. What good is there doing that? I think Mike McCarthy is actually a better coach than he gets credit for. He does win games. He's not terrible. Absolutely. This isn't like they went out and hired Adam Gase. Okay, like they hired a dude who could win you some games. But I just think the ceiling's limited, and you just moved on from that guy. It's just uninspiring, and I understand why Steelers fans are frustrated because they're like, well, we're just running it back kind of with a different coach with the same issues Mike Tomlin had. I don't love the hire. I think it's again, it's just way too safe. You're trying to 3-putt for double bogey on the green. Like, they go for it a little bit. I didn't like this. I didn't think it was a good hire.
Trying to put together that math of 3-putting for double bogey, but eventually you'll get
it. You'll get that bad. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's still winter here. I got a while till I can think about golf. I think to your point, Frank, like you have a guy who also has a high floor in Mike Tomlin. The guy didn't have a losing season, right? So if you're also going to, and maybe he doesn't have necessarily the ceiling you want, you could make the argument because they haven't gone far in the playoffs. I think they lost their last 7 playoff games, I believe, under Mike Tomlin. Also didn't cover the spread in any of those games. Mike McCarthy, it kind of figures like the same type of thing. He made, we're talking about this in the break a little bit. He made 1 Super Bowl. He did win the Super Bowl, but that was also with Aaron Rodgers in his prime. And I feel like you think back to that Mike McCarthy era, you think of a lot of really good teams, really, really good regular season teams that had these colossal playoff failures, several against the New York Giants, several against other teams. It's really hard to believe that an Aaron Rodgers-led team, as good as he was, they did win it, but they only made 1 Super Bowl in that era. I just briefly looked on Sports Odds history. In his seasons in Green Bay, they had 11-1 or better preseason Super Bowl odds 8 times. So that basically means they're among the favorites in 8 of those seasons. Again, only made 1 Super Bowl. So it just, to your point, doesn't seem that inspiring. I think also who, you guys would know this better than I would, but who are you bidding against, right? You have all these coaches who are still in the playoffs who maybe you want to interview. I guess you don't, but it doesn't seem like Mike McCarthy is this hot candidate. Like, we got to get him right now because 5 other teams are interviewing him. It seems like you could interview the new, kids on the block, as it were, some of these coordinators, see if it goes well. Maybe you want them, maybe you don't want them. And then you'll probably still have the same chance to hire Mike McCarthy in a week or 2. So the timing also seemed kind of weird, unless there's this big Mike McCarthy market that we're unaware of.
I mean, they could have interviewed NKOTB, but they did, some of them, but they chose to go with Mike McCarthy. I don't mind it, I'll be honest with you. He's a very good coach, and they are, if it feels a little bit like a bridge hire, but they are in a what do we do potential bridge quarterback situation here. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is their best option for next year. Logic dictates that a year older, he is going to take a step backwards. Father Time is truly undefeated. He was good enough this year to get them into the postseason. Collectively, they were good enough to get into the postseason, but through no one's shock, they were one and done yet again. The problem is they're picking 21st again. This is not a great quarterback draft. I predict, I'm going to say it right now, we're going to spend 2.5 months trying to figure out whether or not the Steelers want Ty Simpson or Garrett Nussmeier or some other quarterback at 21, just like we did a year ago. Do they want Shador? Do they want Jackson Dart? What are they going to do at quarterback at 21? They passed on them both. They eventually took Will Howard. If they don't have Aaron Rodgers next year, let's just play that game. Well, then Will Howard or any quarterback they draft, or a B or C list quarterback they go get, and it's not going to be a robust market in free agency or via trade. Mike McCarthy is a good guy to develop said quarterback. Mike McCarthy can work with your quarterback. So if he brings back Aaron Rodgers, so be it. I guess you run it back because there aren't many good options. But if Aaron doesn't come back, then what you have here is a good coach, a winning coach with a proven track record. Yes, who knows how to speak your language in Western Pennsylvania, who can also, Frank, develop a quarterback. I don't think that's so bad.
No, I don't think it's a terrible hire. I'm not like, oh, goodness, they just hired Urban Meyer. Like, it's fine. And that's the problem I have with it is you had a chance to chart the course. Who cares about 2026, whether you win 9 games with Aaron Rodgers or 8 games with Will Howard or whatever. That
but
shouldn't
the fans
be,
there
they should
do.
be like, But the fans there want a Super Bowl. The fans are done losing in the playoffs. The fans are like 7 in a row. We've tied Marvin Lewis's record. We need to get off this hamster wheel and either get busy living or get busy dying. And just like shooting for another 9-win season and winning a bad AFC North just seems like a weird idea to me. Like, go big. See what Chris Shula has to offer. You know, Nate Shieldhouse, whatever you're going to do, like try something bold, try something different, shake things up, just start over again because we've seen the peak of this Steelers core. It's not getting any better.
It's also just in the team building, right? Because they didn't go all in, right? But they also traded a 2 for DK Metcalf. So now you don't have that second round pick in this year's draft. You have no ammunition to package up and move up. Again, if there was that quarterback you wanted, there might not be anyway, but you're basically sitting at 21 and hoping that the guy that you like falls to that, because you really, unless you're trading a lot of assets, which the Steelers typically haven't done too much, they're not going to be able to move up to get that guy. So it was just a weird kind of maybe misaligning of how good you thought the team was or could be with Aaron Rodgers. And look, they made the playoffs. They were good enough, but I think nobody truly thought the Steelers are a Super Bowl contender. Whereas, hey, if the Ravens ever got their act together and maybe played at full strength and to their full potential, they could have made some noise in the AFC. I don't think people saw this Steelers team that same way.
Well, quarterbacks always get pushed up in the draft, right? Quarterbacks that we're not necessarily talking about right now will do well in Mobile or do well at the Shrine Game in Texas. Regardless, like whether it's there or somewhere else, they're going to get pushed up because quarterbacks always do get overdrafted. But people need to prepare themselves right now for the idea that this is only going to be a 1 quarterback Thursday night. There is a heck of a shot that this is Fernando Mendoza at 1 to the Raiders, and that's it. On Thursday night, Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeier, who knows, maybe Drew Aller. I know his Penn State 2025 was a disaster, okay? Or Trinidad Chambliss if he's in this draft. Like, those guys could all get into the conversation, and we have a long time between now and the 3rd Thursday in April to talk all those guys up. By the way, the draft is in Pittsburgh. But right now, it could very well be a 1 quarterback first round. And as for the Steeler fans, I don't want Steeler fans to come at me. I've made this point before. I'm not trying to compare it to the Browns or the Titans or the Cardinals, whatever. All these other teams that have losing records that they're looking for head coaches or have already hired their head coaches. I know. The Steelers are the Steelers. I get it. But the idea that they don't have a quarterback and that they have a fan base that thinks it is their birthright to compete every single year for the Super Bowl. All fan bases should want that, but the Steeler fans view it differently. They wanted to run Tomlin out, and many of them are happy that he's gone. I think there is a level of expectation here with this fan base that might be difficult to meet. And you are in a transition period, and maybe Mike McCarthy is the right man for the job, because maybe, even though we said, oh, they're going to be so super patient with any young coordinator that they hire, because that's what they've done in the past, maybe they weren't. And maybe they are trying to still win right now, knowing it is a far bigger challenge than it may look like. Just my 2 cents. All right, let's do one more thing before we go. And Ben, I want to start with you because this is something you were telling us all about all the action on the Seahawks during the season, but now that we're finally all the way to the Super Bowl, we're already seeing the fun beginning in your little world, actually a very big world. That sounded wrong. Your very big world, the world that you work in for Super Bowl 60.
Yeah, look, the Super Bowl is the #1 betting event. Although this year there will be the World Cup, but I should say in North America, it usually is the Super Bowl. And you can you can bet on what they call Super Bowl exactas, which usually you think of, okay, I'm going to bet on a team to win the Super Bowl. You can actually bet on the specific matchup, including who will win. And so one bettor at Circa Sports bet $100 on the Patriots to beat the Seahawks at 3,100 odds to 1. So they would basically win $310,000 off of that $100 wager. Not a bad preseason bet, certainly to have. Just interesting that, right, when you're thinking about this, I wrote a news on Yahoo as well. This is the most unlikely Super Bowl as well we've seen between two teams going back to at least 1975, which is when Sports Odds History Database goes back to. The Seahawks at 60-1, the Patriots at 80-1. We've never had two teams as well with both teams having odds of at least 60-1 in the Super Bowl. The closest, I believe, was 1982, which was when the Bengals, I believe they were 60-1, and the 49ers at 50-1 made the Super Bowl. But we haven't had two teams at over 60-1 as well. So that's why you have those amazing preseason odds with the Patriots beating the Seahawks.
That is kind of bonkers. What do you got, Frank?
I would talk about Josh McDaniels, who, if you've listened to this show and me and Charles Robinson talk for long enough, you know I've made my jokes about Josh McDaniels. And to be clear, I'm not saying Josh McDaniels should get a head coaching job anytime soon, but he's on the verge of some NFL history in one of the weirdest resumes you're going to see. Steve Spagnuolo right now holds the record for most rings as a coordinator. He has 4 of them with not only the Giants, but the Kansas City Chiefs as their defensive coordinator. Josh McDaniels has 3 rings as an offensive coordinator with the Patriots, going for number 4, trying to tie Steve Spagnuolo's NFL record. And when we think about this time around for Josh McDaniels, it's not with Tom Brady, the greatest of all time. He took second-year Drake May, turned him into an MVP candidate, helped this team greatly get to the AFC Championship game. And he has a chance to win his 4th ring as a coordinator, 7th ring overall, by the way, before the age of 50. It's just one of the weirdest resumes you're going to see where, as a head coach, he was a spectacular failure. Let's be honest. But as a coordinator, he's really one of the greatest of all time, and he's marching towards that. And I wrote last year, hey, Steve Spagnuolo has a shot at the Hall of Fame just as a coordinator. If Josh McDaniels wins here with a second quarterback, 4th time as a coordinator, we're going to start to talk about Josh McDaniels in that way too. So just, I make fun of Josh sometimes when I covered here in Denver. I will give him respect that he is one of the greatest offensive coordinators of all time, and he's really proven it this year.
Josh McDaniels also played high school football where? In the same stadium.
Canton, Ohio, I believe, right?
In the same stadium adjacent to the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. So there you go. My one more thing. Actually, I'm going to have 2. Real quick. I had no idea there was an airport in Everett, Washington, about 25 minutes north of Seattle. I took a commercial flight this morning at 7 a.m. from Payne Field, Payne, to LAX direct at 7 a.m. This charming little airport with like 3 gates, and you get through security in 20 seconds. I cannot recommend it enough. I'm an airline geek and an airport geek, if you haven't figured it out yet. Amazing. Payne Field. Got there from downtown Seattle, no traffic, 5:30 in the morning in 27 minutes, and made it home easy. Okay, that's my one more thing. My other one more thing is, I don't know how the Patriots did it. Snow, Vrabel, and amazing defense. Drake May had a fantastic season. But do you have any points the New England Patriots scored to get to the Super Bowl in these 3 playoff games? Anybody? 50.
I do, because I was going to give it on the podcast before.
So on the heels, yes, of the Josh McDaniels thing, and Frank, I agree with everything you just said about Josh and his career and his legacy, really, as quite possibly the greatest offensive coordinator of all time if he wins this. Don't come at me with, it was all Brady. Clearly, Josh had a big say in everything here. The 54 points scored by the Patriots, the fewest ever by a team to win 3 playoff games en route to a Super Bowl. 54 points. They scored 18 points a game, which, if that was their season average over 17 games, would have been tied with the Saints, 28th overall in the NFL in scoring offense. 4 from the bottom, 18 points a game. The only one close to that in the Super Bowl era were the 2000 Ravens, who I just mentioned, behind that Ray Lewis defense, who beat the Giants in Tampa to win that Super Bowl with Brian Billick. They scored 61 points in their 3 games en route to Raymond James and their Super Bowl victory. We remember that team for their defense. Right now, we're not really talking about this team's defense. We should, because the defense is that good. And they also have the kid quarterback that, if given the opportunity, can potentially light things up against the number one scoring defense in the NFL in the Seahawks. It is going to be a great game, and I'm pretty darn excited for it. Frank, thank you, sir. Ben, thank you, and good luck with the snow. For those who don't know, Ben talks to us right now with his driveway yet to be plowed. So hopefully, when next we speak, that gets done. Ben, if not, you're going to have to do it yourself and, take the Twitter video.
They don't throw the word hero around lightly, but...
Driveway shoveling hero, Ben Fawkes. All right, for Ben, for Frank, I'm Andrew. Thanks for listening to. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here today on Inside Coverage. See you tomorrow, everybody.